This is a species from Chile that you almost never see in cultivation. It's Synandrospadix vermitoxicus.
That'll be fun Googling later.
Yeah, it is. I mean, you'll have to look it up because it has the most amazing flower ever.
Today is part 3 of Ren's houseplant home tour. He has been collecting and curating his collection for over a decade now. Check out this playlist here to see more of his collection. He is at philo.pix on Instagram, and be sure to subscribe so that you don't miss out on his and other future tours. Let's get to it.
I guess before we go into the other room, I did want to mention these cool little guys I have down here. This one is the Rhaphidophora hayi, which is actually really easy to find now. When I got it originally, it was really hard. It took me a long time to find it.
I found it at the Kroger, but it was so overwatered.
Yeah, like that's amazing. So, and I will say, of all the little creepy Rhaphidophoras, this one is so easy. And it just winds up and down the poles. And then this one is actually Rhaphidophora that you usually see in terrariums. This one is Hongkongensis, but I actually grew it out quite large, and it's got these awesome roots that are really stuck to the wood.
Yeah, they're like in there.
Yeah, they like really climbed in there, which it's hard to get plants to do that in our climate on wood.
Mm-hmm.
So I was happy to see that.
Do you mist it or anything to help encourage that, or?
No, actually, so all of the plants on poles or anything, I don't do anything to them besides just get the pole wet when I water them.
Mm-hmm.
The dryness doesn't seem to inhibit them. They still root in.
Yeah, I know there's a lot of talk about moss poles.
Yeah, it's really controversial. I mean, some of them, especially like the Syngoniums, I mean, they will really root into them, I guess. Well, I thought I'd be able to see some, but I mean, yeah, you can see some climbing out the back end. But I mean, some plants just look really good on the poles. Mm-hmm. So I just like it.
Beautiful.
It's called Three Kings.
Okay.
That's what it was. That's what the person who gave it to me called it. It's the only podophyllum cultivar I have because I generally find them boring. But this one, every single leaf is different.
And because of the variegation, it causes the leaf shape to be different too.
So it's fun. I've really enjoyed growing it. So that's Spathiphyllum Jessica.
Oh yeah?
Yeah, I know, right? You've seen Jessica before, right? And it's almost entirely white. I don't know if you know this, but some plants with exaggerated leaf coloration are chemically treated to give them that color. It's not super common. So I looked at the Jessica for a long time, and when you look it up online, the leaves are almost entirely white with like little green splashes. Yeah. And it's actually a sport mutation of Sensation, which is the gigantic one. So the fact that it's so small is interesting. But I got it, and then for about a year, it was white, and then it just put out one solid green leaf, and then for about a year after that, it was completely green, and I was like, oh, I got duped. I bought a chemically induced fake plant, but I kept it for a while because it did eventually start putting out just the tiniest little splashes of white once again. So I don't know whether it is reverted because it went entirely green and then it like re-variegated, so that's what made me keep it. Now at this point, I just kind of want it to flower. I do grow just a few bromeliads, which were at one time very popular and are no longer, but I absolutely adore them. This one is Recurvifolia Aztec Gold, which is this cool little yellow cultivar, and I actually struggled with this one for a really long time, and I couldn't get it right, and then all of a sudden it just started looking good again. This is probably one of the most famous bromeliads. A lot of the succulent people grow it, the Deuterococnia brevifolia. It's extremely succulent, and it's very spiky and very, very cool. Okay, so we have some Dischidia here. This one is the one that they call Jerry. Extremely easygoing. I struggled with Dischidia for a long time, and then I got this one, and it's just, I think it taught me how to grow Dischidia because it's just so tolerant. I mean, if you're ever thinking about it, Jerry is the one. I mean, here he is going up the plumeria. He's just so fun. This Dischidia here is actually flowering, which is cool. This is Bengalensis. And these, some of these ones that you see with the little crown there at the top, that's fully open.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's as far as they open. This is the first time a Dischidia has ever flowered for me, so I was happy with that.
Yeah.
And then there was a brief period of my life where I was absolutely head over heels obsessed with the genus Cissus, which is another Vitaceae. And this one here is our Florida native Cissus syngonium. The spots are actually from cytoliths, which are little salt crystals that it pushes out.
Cytoliths. Thank you for defining that for me.
Yeah, and this one is cool because it makes these just insane aerial roots.
Oh my gosh.
That are they're just so cool. I mean, I can never get over it. They're so like, they will go all the way down into the ground. They'll be like, I think in the wild they can get like 50 feet long. This is Plumeria pudica, which is a species Plumeria also about to flower. It has the most wonderful like big white flowers. I love flowers, so a lot of my plants I grow them mostly for the flowers, but I like to find ones that have interesting flowers and foliage so that they're satisfying all year round. I have quite a few Syningias here, which are tuberous Gesneriad. They make these large tubers that are just so cool, and they have these big fuzzy leaves. This one I just got this one this year. A friend of mine grew it from seed. It's like
furry.
Yeah, it's got the fuzziest leaves. It's wonderful. It's the Syningia leucotricha.
Okay.
And then, this is probably the most classic, the Bellata. That makes another nice little one. This one, despite being relatively small, is one of my oldest. Not quite as old as this one, but it's getting there.
Just a Medanilla.
Yeah, so I'm like head over heels obsessed with Melastomaceae, the family. And if I could find more of them, I would go nuts. So this one I have been growing for quite a while. This one is Medanilla pendula, which is a species that you just don't see in cultivation as often. And it is just beginning to reach maturity, but it actually hangs down. Like the whole entire plant will change its habit to like a pendant. And I got it as just this little stick here as a cutting from I think a seller on eBay for like $5. Because I was looking for this specific species for so long, and it languished for years. It looked like shit. It looked like crap for years. And then all of a sudden, this last summer, it just blew up. And this is one of my another one of my little prized possession plants. This is the variegated Ficus deltoidea.
Oh, okay.
Unfortunately, this one is still extremely hard to find. I got this from Tom Pegrossi on Hawaii, and it's just the most amazing variegated clone. I did just wire it for the first time ever.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that.
And it just makes these amazing little figs just all over it, and the figs are variegated even. And it's just incredible. I mean, just one of my favorite plants.
It's beautiful. I like that pot too, very tall.
Yeah, I was afraid when I put it in here that it would rot. But it filled all the way out to the bottom. And here's another plant that's just about to flower. I think you're just a little too early. Jatropha cathartica. This is actually native to Texas. And it has the most amazing little lacy leaves. A friend of mine picked this up for me in Texas at a native plants nursery who grows them from seed, which is awesome because, you got to be careful where you get your plants. And Jatropha are just, they're amazing plants. They're euphorbiaoid, so they're closely related to euphorbia, and they're just so easy and so fun, and they flower prolifically, which is a huge bonus, for a rock in a pot. Yeah, but I love this one.
Is there a good way to tell when it needs watering?
So this one took me a really long time, actually, to figure out what the watering schedule was. And I treat it like a euphorbia now. So in the summer when it's warm, it gets quite a lot of water. And then in the winter, it just, maybe half it in the winter. I space it out much further.
Okay.
But in the summer, I learned the lesson the hard way that wants water. It really does. I struggled with this plant for a long time because I kept it way too dry. And then, believe it or not, this is actually a Tradescantia.
When I was looking at that, I was like, it looks like.
Yeah, so they moved it into a different genus recently. I don't remember what it is now, but it used to be Tradescantia zanonia. I mean, I'll be honest, I got it because it's supposed to be the most difficult Tradescantia to grow, and I just wanted to see, what was the fuss. But, I mean, it hasn't been particularly fussy. It doesn't like to dry out, so it's got a lot of little brown spots on here because I'm a little forgetful. But beyond that, I mean, it's gotten quite tall, and the leaves are just gorgeous.
Yeah.
So I have to pull this one out because it's one of my favorites. This is actually a tomato.
You say tomato?
Yeah, it's a tomato. It's a Solanum.
So fuzzy.
Yes, and extremely spiky too, so be careful.
I'm sorry. Your part got that in there.
Especially the stem, very spiky.
Wow.
Solanum Quitoense. I love the Solanum family, and
Don't mention me.
oh yeah, I've got a bunch of rocks everywhere. They're not really for anything. My mom was a really big into the rocks, and she left me like just boxes and boxes of rocks. So they've made their way everywhere. I really like them though. Purple rock, purple plant.
Yeah. My grandma's given me a lot of, when they were downsizing, a lot of rocks and stones, a couple fossils and things. Probably both my grandparents collected.
Yeah, I mean,
I just don't want them to disappear into the soil someday.
I definitely have lost a few.
Oh.
Or like I dump out a plant and find a bunch of cool rocks in it, just in the dirt, because who knows how long they've been working their way around. But so I mentioned earlier growing strange versions of native plants. So the Solanum, this is actually a blueberry.
Oh.
This is Agapet serpens. And this is a cultivar called Nepal Cream, which is the alba white-flowered variety. Serpens generally has red flowers, but it does produce large edible blueberries. It's funny because it's like one of those plants that I got and just did not expect to do well with.
I see this is the crest miracle.
This is actually Martianum. I can't remember where I got this, but it took a really long time to start growing. It just kind of sat in a pot for years and did nothing, and then it did eventually start growing. And now it grows pretty consistently. I love the extremely succulent petioles. Just super weird and interesting. It's Martianum after an orchid, because in the wild it grows up in the trees, and it looks a lot like an orchid with the pseudobulbs. Mm-hmm. Another bulb, the amazing Hamanthus albifloss. It's called the.
Also looks like a fuzzy plant.
Yes, very fuzzy.
Oh, it's like harder than I expected.
Yeah, it's cool. I was hoping for it to flower this year, but if it was going to, it should be doing it right now. So it doesn't seem like it's going to.
Probably adjusting from the move, maybe.
Yeah, he'll do it eventually. A lot of the bulbs take a really long time. And then this is very cool. So with the aroids, the thing that I was drawn to more than anything else is the tuberous aroids. So they're seasonally dormant. It has an underground tuber, and then it goes to sleep in the winter. This is a species from Chile that you almost never see in cultivation. It's Synandrospadix vermitoxicus.
Fun Googling later.
Yeah, it is. You'll have to look it up because it has the most amazing flower ever. And I got this as just the tiniest first year sprouted seedling. And that was the only, I waited years to find this plant. And then I thought I killed it immediately because it went dormant for a very long time. And then just about 2 months ago, woke up for the first time ever and just threw out this giant leaf, and it's extremely etiolated. The petioles should be like down here. But I'm still happy that it woke up. That's all I care about. It woke up, so something's happening in there.
It can finally eat some sunlight too.
Yeah. And then, behind me is one of my most challenging plants. This is the Passiflora trifasciata.
This is another one that I remember from your Instagram, very much so.
It is extremely difficult. It gives me such a hard time, but it has grown quite well. despite that over the last few years.
What about it makes it difficult?
Well, so it's semi-deciduous tropical plant. So unlike a lot of the bulbs that I grow, where winter care is just keep it cool and dry, this wants cool and dry, but not too cool and not too dry. So it's just really hard. Every winter, I think it's dead. All the leaves fall off. Sometimes the stems will die all the way down to the ground. And every winter, I think that it's dead, and then it comes back, and finally, for the first time ever, it has started to get like solid and woody at the bottom. And I think that as it ages, it might become easier, because this year it was much easier than last year. So I think as it gets older, it's figuring it out.
Awesome. And now this shelf, it does look like it's dividing your room.
Yeah, so I just have the one bedroom, so this shelf kind of divides my living room into like the living room, and then this is like my little art studio space, which usually spreads out much further, but I pushed it back so that we can see them.
Why, thank you.
But
yeah, while we're talking about it though, so you are an artist.
Yeah, you might see some paintings up along the walls and stuff. I was an art teacher for quite a while, but I don't do that anymore now. I'm a bartender, which is, I like it. I really do. And it gives me a lot more time and energy to put towards my art and stuff in my personal time. But yeah, my two hobbies are plants and art, so I'm very patient.
Yeah. Well, hey, good virtue.
Yeah.